Good morning, folks, and welcome to another edition of City Hall Live. I am Joe Abeta, and today we have a special guest. We have City Councilor Signe Lindell from District 1. And people call you Sig.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
But I'm going to call you Councilor, if that's okay.
You can do that, Joe, but
Okay.
you can also call me Sig.
I know that. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
it's my pleasure. Every time that I get to sit down and talk with you, it's always fun. I always like seeing you, and doing the show is good.
Yes, no, I appreciate you coming on today. So you know, we have a little bit more time than normal, and I've never had the chance, and I know just because of personal interaction, but I think a lot of folks don't know. But what brought you out here to Santa Fe?
Well, you know, Joe, I started my career as I went to college in the East and finished a doctorate in education at West Virginia University.
So you should be doctor.
I am doctor.
I didn't know that about you.
You don't, but you don't want a physical from me.
No. I got you. No.
So, yeah, I do have a doctorate in education,
Okay.
and I taught at Kent State University.
Oh, wow.
So that was an exciting time in my life. But during the summers, when I was teaching at Kent, I would come to New Mexico and work on some projects here. And I got bit by the bug of living in the land of enchantment. Mm-hmm. So I taught for 3 or 4 years, and then made the commitment to come to New Mexico.
Wow.
And have never looked back, and have been involved here ever since. That was in the mid-'80s.
Interesting.
So,
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
It's a while.
So Santa Fe was going through kind of a transition still. It was, I don't know if you want to say the tourist bug, the destination bug wasn't as worldwide as it was. It was about to, though, in the 80s, right?
Yeah, I actually was spending my time early on up in the Las Vegas area.
Okay.
Up in the Montezuma area specifically, and then moved to Albuquerque and did some work there. Started a business, ran a business there for nearly 15 years, not quite, and then had the opportunity to move to Santa Fe. And my partner, Maria Sanchez, always wanted to live in Santa Fe. She's a 7th generation New Mexican, hadn't lived in Santa Fe, and said, I want to live in Santa Fe. So we came to Santa Fe, and here we are.
So you came to Santa Fe, and I remember you started out as a contractor, was that right, or no? Is that how I kind of had an interaction with you? But you were on the Planning Commission, I know that.
I was on the Planning Commission. I came to Santa Fe, and shortly after being here, I got a realtor's license.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, we did some real estate, and had our own company, and then worked with HomeWise, affordable housing.
Okay, all right.
So had some real experience with that.
So then how did you, was the Planning Commission your first taste of public service?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Mayor Delgado, who's kind of my neighbor up in my area of town, Mayor Delgado appointed me to the Rules and Ethics Committee.
Okay.
That was my first commitment with the city.
Okay.
And that was quite a while ago. I mean, that was back around 2000.
Okay.
And from the Rules and Ethics Committee, then I did go on to the Planning Commission. That appointment was from Mayor Koss. And I was on the Planning Commission for nearly 8 years, which, you know, to do the business of the city, a lot of the business of the city does have to do with land use issues. And reading the land use code, which is chapter 14, that's a sizable task.
Yes.
And being well versed in those years on the Planning Commission have been very, very helpful to me as a city councilor.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of things that you come across are land use issues. And if you're going to delve into chapter 14 brand new, you got a task cut out for you, because that's almost 600 pages, and you better be well versed in some parts of it. Very well versed.
Yeah, and you know, it must help out a lot.
It does.
Especially when, you know, when people come with appeals or have been pushed forward from the Planning Commission as far as, you know, just anything having to do structurally, anything having to do with building. you're like, oh, I know that. That's page 32, section whatever, and I know exactly what it says.
Having an understanding of that code is really, really important, because that chapter 14 part of our code really is very formative in how this city will look in the future. I mean, it's hugely important.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So you had become planning commission. Was that right in the whole crux, the crescendo of the water budget office? Is it during that time you were involved with that?
I was in just after that happened.
The big boom.
The toilet retrofits.
Yeah, the toilet retrofit.
I was around for the beginning of that, and when I first got on the Planning Commission, I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2004, around there.
So just, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is we had packets that were like this. I mean, building was going, everything was happening. It was
during that big boom.
Huge.
Yeah.
And then kind of partway through, toward the end of my term on the Planning Commission, packets started looking like this. I mean, if you want to know how building is going in this town, take a look at the Planning Commission agenda or the size of the packet, which, some of those packets were, I mean, they're hundreds of pages. So it was pretty exciting. And
it kind of, it brings up the question of, like, can you imagine if the boom would have continued now, up to 2017? This town would be huge. I mean, we wouldn't be calling it a town, it'd be the city.
The brakes got put on pretty dramatically in, the recession really started in 2008.
Yeah.
But the brakes went on 2009, 2010. I mean, lending, it was tough to find lending to support projects.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
the infrastructure, finding the money to do that. I mean, it was like someone turned off the water faucet.
Yeah.
But we're seeing projects now.
No, definitely.
And that's terrific.
Yeah, no.
We need them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so Planning Commission.
Yeah.
And then did you take a break for a while from public service?
A very small break.
Very small.
Very small break. I knew that I was going to run for council, so I announced I was going to run for council while I was still on the Planning Commission, and then resigned my seat.
Okay. So then what caused you to run? And did you have to talk to Maria about it? Because
you better talk to your partner
I was just going to say that, but I'm Planning Commission, that takes your Thursday nights.
Yep.
Then some reviewing here and there, a little bit of homework, a little night reading, whatever. But City Council is a whole other ballgame.
It's not
just every other Wednesday.
No, it's I'm retired, so I pretty much do. As you know, you see me here every day.
I do.
I come to City Hall every day, and I try to be present, and it's a full-time job for me.
Yeah.
And I have meetings or commitments within the community, certainly no less than 3 nights a week, and meetings every day, as you know how that goes. I mean, but I think that.
So you guys talked about this? You guys,
yeah.
So listen, I'm not going to, there's going to be a little bit, less time, to do this. How do you feel about it?
Absolutely. I think that, we always joked and laughed and said, oh, when we're retired, we'll rent a van and go see the national parks. Well, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
But I think that people should have some understanding that this kind of public service takes a commitment from a family.
Yeah.
And families give up a lot.
Yes.
For someone to serve in this kind of a position. And I'm grateful to the families of my colleagues because I serve with some really, really wonderful people.
Yeah.
And I know that their families do give up a lot, and sometimes it's frustrating, and we forget to thank them. But in my case, Maria knew it was my dream to do this. She was supportive, and I think that fortunately for the city and the community, Maria's jumped in and she now serves on numerous boards, numerous committees, commissions, and the city, in a way, kind of got a 2-for-1 with me.
Yeah.
We're both very, very active with some, probably the one we're most active with together is the Food Depot.
Okay.
Maria sits on the board of the Food Depot, and we go and both volunteer over there, and you know, you just get your eyes open to so many things.
Oh, I bet you do. And you know, Food Depot, a huge hub for all of northern New Mexico. I mean, even pets, right? I mean, I know that
we're real active.
You're real active with the pets.
Yeah.
Because pets, if families are going hungry, and you have pets there to keep the morale up of the family, because that's what pets do.
That's right.
They keep your morale up. They're kind of like the pep squad of the family, right?
That's right, and you know what we know is that people have generous hearts, and they would give part of their food that they should be, that they need nutritionally, to their pets. So everybody was suffering on some level, and they started a program of food for pets, and it's really taken off. It's terrific.
Yeah, and the Food Depot takes care of thousands of people throughout the whole northern New Mexico.
Right.
Not just Santa Fe. And I always say, whenever I have folks from the Food Depot on, you know, that, and I tell folks that are watching that hunger just doesn't happen during the holidays.
That's right.
It is a yearly. It happens all year round. So
that's
always,
right.
you know, go out there, and just a little plug for the Food Depot to
and
give them a
you know, there's programs going on right now through the summer when kids aren't in school and they don't have the offering of nutrition
having
at
breakfast
school.
and lunch
That's
at
right.
school.
They have programs now taking food out to different locations to make sure that children are fed during the summer months. I mean, it's a nationally recognized program.
Yes.
We're really, really proud of it.
And we have people like yourself, volunteers, and the folks at the Food Depot, which I'll tell you what, I can't think of the young lady's name that always comes on, but she is awesome.
Sherry?
Yes.
And Jill?
Yes, Jill Gentry. She's been on here a couple of times.
Sherry Hooper.
And I just say, you guys are like a well-oiled machine by the way you go and look for food, you purchase
Amazing.
it, you send it out, you make use of even turnips. You know, things like that, right? And they send
That's
recipes with these things, and they're taking care of so many people.
They really are.
So it's a great organization, and I'm telling you what, internship-wise, if you are a restaurateur or you're looking at starting a restaurant business or a food business or any kind of food and beverage thing, I'll tell you what, go to Food Depot, get in that internship, you will learn how to be efficient,
amazing
person as far as food goes.
Great staff. Yeah, I mean, big plug for them every time.
Absolutely.
Every time.
So switching gear, going back to a little bit, so you guys volunteer at the Food Depot, but also, okay, so you had said it was your dream to be, you know, to be a city councilor. What was the motivation behind that? What was it? Did you say, hey, I think I can do a really good job of an impact on the community with some of my experience that I have? Was that what it was? What was it?
When I say my dream, I mean my dream is to be involved, bring other people in, get them involved. I mean, it's my personality to bring people in and help them find their comfort level in any organization.
Yeah.
And you know, certainly many people in City Hall, employees of the city, know me, and you know, I try to bring that comfort level to situations that I always say, you know what, good leaders bring people together.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
And you know, there's plenty of times that you need to sit and just listen, and you know, we're a pretty sizable, the city organization is pretty sizable. I mean, we're a $400 million budget. We have almost 1,500 employees here.
Yep.
I mean, it's a pretty, if you look at it that way, we're a pretty sizable company. But you know, going out into the community and just getting one person at a time being involved. And, you know, once people become involved, you know, it advances the community. You know, I'm not a counselor that brings a lot of legislation. I'm kind of that counselor that's just inching the ball down the field, trying to look at situations, make it a little bit better. Working with constituents all the time. And you know, being available. If someone calls me or emails me, I'm really committed to getting back to them within 24 hours.
No, and this is a great segue. You don't mention that you're going into a segue, but you know, I want to go off the whole count.
You're a pro.
No, well, you know, about what your run for office is.
Sure.
But let's bring up this. You know, another thing you had brought up with the whole closing of the college. You know, there was rumors that, you know, and you had come on right away to talk about, you know, them closing Greer Garson. That's not happening. That is not happening. But you guys now, I mean, and it's funny, you're saying you're inching along the field, you know, carrying the ball, trying to take care of things as they go. But sometimes there's an interception. You know, and a good example of that would be the closing of the college.
Absolutely.
So how do you handle something like that?
Well, I mean, it's nothing that you make snap decisions about. You know, the city has a sizable commitment with that property. The city purchased that property long before I came on the scene. But folks need to remember that we have a mortgage on that property in the millions of dollars. And we have an obligation every year on that mortgage that is in the millions of dollars. So we have to be really careful in how we purpose that land. And I think that at this point in time, it is the wishes and the goals of the council to see that property remain an institution of higher learning. And, you know, having been a university professor, that's very near and dear to me, the educational component. And, you know, when you think about municipalities around the country, we're really not building new campuses, particularly within city limits. That's a very, very special piece of property.
It is.
It's been an institution of higher learning for decades and decades. And, you know, it's our hope that it will remain an institution of higher learning. And it's always our hope that that involves locals and children from this town. I say children, young adults. To be able to advance themselves through whatever school is there.
So there's, I mean, I know, I'm not, you know, I'm sure there's some stuff going on that might happen, and you guys are working, so
absolutely.
There's some stuff in the hopper,
there
if you will,
is.
and it'd be nice to, because it's a great piece. It's in the heart of our city.
That's absolutely true. And when you take into consideration that earlier this year we did an overlay district on St. Mike's to reassess that corridor. And try to make it more of, instead of just a thoroughfare up through there, that we turn it much more into a friendly area that we develop in a very, very mindful way.
No,
so
absolutely.
That's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
You know, if you had a new thriving school there, along with that St. Mike's corridor, some new investment along there, I think that we're on the edge of having some very, very good things happen there.
Yeah, and there's the studios that are there,
absolutely.
And then also, is it the Higher Learning Center, or
yes.
What is it called?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's a beautiful building.
It is, and I think that we haven't used those resources, you know, to their fullest extent.
No, absolutely not.
But you know, that property, and I always say this, you know, we still have a tenant on that property, and that tenant is still in good standing.
Okay.
So, you know, we're not in a situation where we have some immediacy to it, but we have time to do this in a
little bit of wiggle room.
Very mindful way.
Gotcha.
So that's
okay.
coming along.
Okay, no, that's great. So let's get back to, so you decide to run for city council.
Yes.
You start to campaign.
I did. I had no idea of what that meant.
And you did not run unopposed, right?
No, I had an opponent.
You had an opponent, and so you ran. Take you back to that night. Were you nervous? Was there some kind of a, was there doubt in your head, or did you think, I'm going to win this, and I know I'm going to win it?
I felt I was going to win. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I had an opponent. It was a respectful race. Mm-hmm. And, I went about my business. I didn't focus I had no focus on my opponent at all.
Yeah.
I had a focus on what I was doing, mm-hmm. and I learned a tremendous amount in that campaign. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
I walked the district. District 1 is huge. Mm-hmm. It starts up at Sierra del Norte and goes all the way to Seiler Road.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, it's by far geographically the largest district, mm-hmm. and it's also by far the most diverse district.
Oh, yeah.
So I went to places in District 1 that I kind of didn't know existed. Some of the places up in Sierra del Norte, the driveways were like this, and I would walk up them and knock on the door, and people would be like, "What are you doing here? No one's ever come here before."
And talk to us.
And I'd be out of breath. I'd be like, "Could you consider voting for me?"
Yeah. Wait, can I have a drink of water, please?
They did offer me a drink of water. It was very funny. They were very kind.
That's
and
cool.
I met a lot of people, and I heard a lot of concerns. And what I really learned that people, they do want to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And that's a very, very important part of this job, mm-hmm. is finding a welcome for everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone's welcome. Mm-hmm. And when people come into this big tent, we need to make them welcome, help them find their comfort level, mm-hmm. and that gets people involved in this community, and that really advances all of us.
It's almost like playground rules, right?
That's right.
You go out into the playground and you have kickball, and you're picking teams, and there's a kid over there on the side that really wants to play, but he's a little shy.
That's right.
Not necessarily that he's not good at kickball, but he's just shy and doesn't know how to approach it. And so it's just addressing the needs of everybody's personality to be able to come and join this game of kickball and make them feel welcome.
That's perfect.
Right?
That's a perfect way to describe it, Joe. And it's really incumbent on all of us, mm-hmm. to invite that kid into the game.
Yeah.
And to see people standing on the sidelines and find their interest, invite them in. We have so many opportunities, mm-hmm. in this community to volunteer, mm-hmm. and to allow people to make a difference.
Yeah. Would you say that's kind of the hardest part of the job, is making sure that you have everybody included? What would you say is what is the hardest part of your job?
I think the hardest part of the job is to, stay mindful of what the goals are, mm-hmm. and to, understand the diversity, mm-hmm. and different people sometimes get focused a little selfishly, mm-hmm. on one thing, mm-hmm. and we need to allow people and help them to see the bigger picture. Okay. That's a really hard part of the job, is to help people to see the bigger picture.
Gotcha.
Because, we're all inclined to just see, well, how does that affect me?
Yeah.
And that's a tough part of the job.
No, I bet you.
And, there's very, very hard decisions to be made with some of the land use decisions. I don't take those lightly at all. I mean, I study those cases more than once. You have neighborhoods that don't want something to happen, but in the bigger scheme of things for the whole city, it's probably what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And those are very, very hard things for individuals.
Mm-hmm. Is it tough being, District 1 does have some historical area behind it that that has been in this? I mean, I don't know if this would be, but Casa Solana. I grew up at Casa Solana, and it's a very, very it's a treasured neighborhood. Not
Yes,
that
it
all of them
is.
aren't, but it's historically treasured. It was kind of the first.
It's a Stam. It was Stam's one of Stam's first developments.
That's right.
And,
and it was,
and looking at it when you look at the plat of Casa Solana, how it was platted out. I mean, it's a wonderful neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
It's just terrific, and we have to be respectful of keeping those neighborhoods intact, but yet looking to the future. And at this point in time, a lot. Infrastructure in old neighborhoods. I mean, that neighborhood's been there a long time now.
It has been.
And it, we have needs that have to be met.
Yeah.
But, I'm also very mindful of the historic district and what that means to this city.
Yeah.
And I know it brings hardship at times to people wanting a permit or how they go about it. Everybody's like, no, I don't want to have to go through historic. I actually built a house that sits in the historic district and the escarpment district, so I got the double whammy.
Yeah.
So I got a real understanding of how that works, but...
But you knew that before.
I didn't know that
before.
Didn't know that before. No, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
I was like, so it's an escarpment? What does that mean to me? And I was like, really?
Yeah. So this was before you had been in planning and stuff.
Right.
I was going to say, because if it was during planning, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the game plan.
No. In fact, in a way, that's how I got involved in that, because I was so naive about it. I spent a ton of time down in land use, because I was like, I have to do this. I learned a huge amount.
So that was good because you also know how it feels to be someone that's going through the process of the planning process, right?
Absolutely. I was just a gal that walked in there totally naive of what my future looked like.
Yeah, and and look at you now.
And we navigated through it, and in a way, that's how I did get involved.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I learned a huge amount, and that's how I got involved a lot with land use.
Gotcha.
And I'm super respectful of our historic code.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, so you win.
I did.
How did you feel?
I felt excited, I was energized, and I was, of course, also nervous.
Okay.
I wanted to be sure that I did a good job. Working hard, that's a given. I can do that.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to work smart and to work right. And the way several things happened that allowed me to do the best I could. And one of those things is city staff. I mean, there's people in this building that absolutely want you to succeed in a most sincere way.
Oh, yeah.
And there were also counselors that want you as a newbie, as a freshman, to succeed.
Yeah.
I was given an appointment to the finance committee, and I will be eternally grateful to Counselor Dominguez for the way that he helped me with that. Counselor Dominguez really mentored me in how that budget works. And that's a really important thing, to have someone be willing to give of themselves and their knowledge, and be very generous of spirit about it. I think that a lot of times people may think that counselors are very competitive with each other, and that's not necessarily the case.
No.
I mean, we have some disagreements, and some of them are a little spirited.
No.
But
it's not a personal thing.
If it feels personal for you, you kind of need to reassess.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a huge detriment to to doing your work in the future.
It's kind of like if the constituents are looking out and they're looking in at you guys and they see you guys out here on the dais, that's your game time, right?
Right.
LeBron and Kevin Durant,
right.
You're a fan of the Cavs and you can't stand Golden State.
Right.
But in the off season or even off the field, Kevin Durant and LeBron James are really good friends.
Yeah.
And it's just a competitive thing. So, the fans don't necessarily see that, or the constituents. You guys might not agree per se up here on the dais,
right.
but as soon as that gavel's hit, hey, you want to go out? You want to go out and you want to go and grab something to eat over
That's
here at Cowgirl or something?
And
sure, let's go do that.
And if you don't have that kind of personality or that ability, this might not be the work for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you don't get disappointed and that you don't say to someone, you know what, I'm really disappointed that you couldn't support me in that or that you couldn't be helpful in it, because we all do care very, very much about the city.
Yeah.
And I mean specific different issues. But it doesn't mean that we agree, but you got to leave it here.
Yeah.
And because you got a lot more days to work together, and a ton of things that are important.
And you never
to
know
work
if you might need help later on, right?
And to be able to go to one of your fellow counselors and say, you know what, I'm not really sure about this. Could you give me your opinion on it and help me kind of through how this could work?
Yeah.
Having those relationships, I think that that's the sign of a really good counselor.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Go ahead.
That's.
So, because we don't have a lot more time, and I just wanted to bring this up because this is a moment of mine that I was it was very exciting for me to live vicariously to you guys. But you and Maria had a chance to go to the White House.
We did. It's a pretty emotional thing.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it was.
Absolutely.
We were invited by President and Mrs. Obama to go last year to the President's Pride reception. And, I spent a lot of time in the 70s and the 80s marching for different causes.
Yeah.
And to be invited to the White House by a black president to a Pride reception with my partner of over 20 years was a very, very emotional moment for us.
Knee shaky?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those moments.
Tearful.
Huh? Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm still emotional.
Yeah, no,
about
I gotcha. I feel you on that.
I mean, it was, and it's the kind of thing that I certainly came from a home that was very rural. We were farmers.
Yeah.
We struggled some. And for my parents, the idea that their child would be invited to the White House.
Amazing, huh?
Yep.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I beamed with pride. I'm a staff worker, but we've known each other for a while back and forth.
I have a relationship with a lot of people in this building.
Yeah,
and I felt that I wanted to represent all the people that I know that, they pat you on the back and they say, good for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for you, it's good for us.
Yeah, all of us.
All of us.
Yeah.
It was some moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
thanks for mentioning
that.
No,
I had to because it's one of my favorite Signe Lindell moments that I have. So
it was really something.
I always will remember that. So, but I wanted to talk about that, and I just want to thank you for coming on today.
Joe, you know that I love having a conversation with you, whether it's on camera, whether it's in your office, whether it's in the hall.
Exactly.
And you folks do a terrific job, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve our community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have you back on. We didn't even get to a lot of the stuff we were going to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
But that's all right.
All right.
We'll have you on again. Thanks again.
Thanks, Joe.
And thank you, folks, for watching. This has been City Hall Live. Have a safe weekend. Have a great weekend. Adios.